With the recent Disney offerings, I had extremely low expectations for Elemental, but nothing could have prepared me for just how bad this was. And I couldn't find a review that got dressed in the necessary industrial grade hazmat suit to splash around in the cesspool that is this movie. And to elaborate just how bad this movie truly is, I got myself a nice little yellow hazmat suit. Elemental is so fundamentally flawed, incompetently written, and devoid of any real soul or thought that this shouldn't have made it past the vape thought by whoever hallucinated this garbage. You might think that I'm nitpicking, and to an extent I will be, but those nitpicks are just pointing out the coughs of a terminally ill patient that is riddled with stage 10 writing cancer. Firstly, the two parents, Bernie and Cinder, used to live in harmony, but then everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. Only the Avatar, master of all... Oops, my bad. I seem to have slipped into a defensive coma, my happy place, as it were, at an attempt to protect my sanity. Anyway, so they used to live happily in the Fire Kingdom with their fire family and friends, and this part confuses me. So after a storm levels their house, they don't stay and rebuild with the support of their family. No, they just leave.
I'm out, man.
How does leaving your home, your family, make any sense in this context? You have to start from scratch after the storm, and instead of what a normal person would do, staying and rebuilding where you are comfortable, you abandon everything? I don't get it. If your house gets demolished in your hometown, would you not try to live with your family for a bit to try and rebuild with the support of friends and family? Why would you just run away to a country where you might not even be welcomed in? If this was a logical train of thought, it would have derailed and killed hundreds. So we are not off to a good start. But anyway, they move to Element City and start anew. They rebuild a dilapidated building, start a cozy family business with a spot for their blue flame. And from what I could gather, this blue flame is vital to their culture, almost like a symbol for their deity. Because Ember commented that she prayed to it, but they never delve into the significance of it to the family, so any threats to its existence fall short of creating suspense, because what happens if it does actually go out? Would they all be snuffed out alongside it, or is it more like a statue that breaks, more symbolic? But they risk their lives to save it later on, so it can't be purely symbolic, right? I don't know, again, color me confused. There is so little information given about this flame that seems to be so important. In typical coming of age fashion, we better have a growing up montage with Ember, and they keep hinting that she'll be the successor when her father retires. And she seems excited at the prospect, so when her explosive temper turns out to be her inner self telling her that she doesn't actually want to take over the business, I'm left on the fence if this was really the best approach. I understand that anger is an emotion that tends to mask the fear, and there are some indications that she is naturally good with glasswork, but it doesn't really show that she doesn't want to take over the shop, at least not enough to warrant this explosive temper she has, which feels like an emotion you usually lean into. That's what makes it so flammable, but Ember seems to actively resist against it, so now her temper has more of a involuntary sneeze-like quality, like she doesn't actually want to be angry, but is out of her control. Wouldn't apathetic laziness not have been a better fit for this hidden feelings she has? I'm not convinced that a temper was the best creative choice. It feels like their thought process was, oh, fire equals temper. Really? This could have been addressed more creatively. That's all I'm saying. Ember sneezes, blows up some pipes, and that's when Wade, the pathetic man-child, rushes into her life. This useless, spineless guy does almost nothing but talk about his feelings and cry for no reason, invalidating the emotional cost when crying is actually appropriate. Mr. City Inspector sees the state of the basement and immediately starts writing it up for violating city code. And the whole time she's pleading with him, explaining that her dad built this house with his own hands, and if they lose this place, they have nothing left. The slippery bugger keeps on writing anyways. She inevitably chases him down to City Hall where he submits his write-ups, and then she keeps on the same story about how that's her dad's shop, and now he starts crying again and offers to help her get it back. Am I being the moron here? What new information did he not have before he submitted the write-ups? The basement is still in violation. He knew this was their livelihood. Where is this change of heart coming from that he wants to help her figure out where this water is coming from, because these pipes should actually be empty? The least they could have done is give a proper reason as to this change of heart, but they couldn't be bothered. And this isn't the only instance where events are forced just to progress the story, instead of having a logical flow of emotions and occurrences that would lead to conflict. Take this scene. She's desperate to cover up the damage her temper did, and he's a pushover. She could pile on the story that she's already been telling and lie that her father has a sickness and they need the shop to pay for his treatment, and using this manipulation to convince him to help. That would fit into her desperation and his inherently soft nature. Naturally, Wade would agree to help her to find the source of the problem and would be a perfect setup for future conflict when he finds out what she did in her moment of desperation. But no. That takes too much effort to write a better story. Ember and Wade set out on a hot air balloon to find the source of all the water spillage and starts getting all gooey for each other. They cross two trees picking each other's apples and they seem blushingly embarrassed about it, which is already odd for a kids movie, but okay, fine. Wade later on makes another comment about pruning each other, so obviously this is some weird innuendo they thought were just too clever not to make. It feels stonily deaf to make an obscure joke that I don't even fully understand, never mind a kid. And at the end of the movie, the parents dispense with the niceties and straight out says that there's more time for hanky panky now that Ember is gone, which is really weird. Ember and Wade traces the water spillage to one of the boat canals, and I'm curious what the conversation looked like behind the screens at Disney. Was there even one person that asked, how does the elements in the world reconcile with the people that are made up of those same elements? I mean, Wade can to an extent influence the external water that doesn't form part of his body. This is clear from the burst pipe to the flood, and it feels so odd to have a house made up of the same material you are. It's one of the big concepts I don't like about the movie fundamentally. It's not a good idea to create sentient conscious beings from the same building blocks as the world around you. It's just rife with problems. Also, cloud people are still just water, not air. But that was a tangent. I know they aren't creative enough to make characters out of air. They temporarily prevent further floods with these sandbags that Ember melted into glass to seal the door. Tempered glass, from what they explain later on, which is information they volunteered. They didn't need to say this, and now this creates more cracks in their consistency because tempered glass is the glass they make aquariums with. So no, it should not have shattered from the water level rising. If they just kept with the idea that this is normal glass, then at least it would have made sense when the wall breaks, flooding the city. And this is one or two examples from a movie drowning in these inconsistencies. I think if you took the time, you can probably list 100 of these examples if you really wanted to. Certain things would burst into flames and ignite like a doorbell, but other things like chair floaties doesn't even show signs of burning. Back to the forced drama to drag along the story. They have a touchy-feely moment. Wade mentions how lucky he is to have met her, and this triggers a flashback of her dad saying something very similar, and she starts running away and yelling at Wade. I understand that she is torn between what she believes she has to do and Wade telling her to do what her passion is, but the moment leading up to this conflict was not handled well. They could have easily given this another thought and created more natural events like Wade's mother giving Ember an opportunity to go study abroad, and Ember refusing because of this burden of succession, and from there on have this conflict raging between them. The glass breaks, water floods the city and nearly extinguishes the blue flame. Again, this means next to nothing because I don't know what the consequences would be anyway. But Ember tries to protect it, inevitably fails, and now look at this. You don't need to be blessed with Sherlockian deduction or reasoning skills to see the glaring issue here. How did Wade get past this wall with a lantern without getting the fire snuffed? A lantern isn't as malleable as water, but they just had to get them stuck in this hut for the emotional moment. Who cares if this is physically possible or not, as long as we get the sad, tear-jerking moment at any cost, even to the detrimental effect of the quality. I know the following is subjective, but I really had no emotional connection with these characters. I didn't like a lot of the choices they made. There was very little for me to relate to, and overall, I couldn't get into this movie. It all felt so one-dimensional, and I was really in the mood for a good Disney Pixar movie. It's been so long, and Marvel is disappointing, DC is flopping, and I miss the innovation era. I miss Ratatouille and WALL-E and I miss real stories, well-written characters and plots. I miss the art and the spectacle of it all. I want to be hopeful and optimistic, but I don't see it happening. I can't see a near future where Disney and all the brands under the Disney umbrella suddenly making money. So Disney isn't going to take the risks. They are going to make sequels and try to milk some money, and we are probably stuck with some bad movies for the foreseeable future. But hey, at least for now, we have Meg 2. Thanks for watching.